Welcome to Human Physiology and your first day of class. I am Dr. Harvey and I will be your teacher for this semester. And you can contact me through Canvas. Since this is an online class, I prefer that you just email me through Canvas. However, once Canvas is over, and hopefully soon, we'll be back on campus, you can contact me either through my VVC email or you can contact me at this extension. Now, before we start talking about physiology itself, I'm just going to change my screen really fast and we're going to go through your syllabus and talk about things that are required for you, and then we're also going to go through your Canvas page so that you can see how the class is set up. So again, this is Bio 231 Human Physiology and I'm Dr. Harvey. And when you look at your syllabus, you'll also be able to see your course section will be on there, and as you scroll down, you'll also find on this first page the days that you have, vacations, that kind of thing, of course online, so I don't know that that really matters so much to you, but you'll be able to see more on this first page. Now, as you go to the second page, you will be able to read the course description, and of course this is a course that introduces you to the concepts of physiology, which of course we'll start talking about today in lecture. And then you can also read the student learning outcomes. These are all about the things that you're supposed to know by the time the class is over. Now, you should already have been screened for your prerequisites, which would include a chemistry class at the college level, and then of course a biology class, which could be any of the bio series 201, 202, or you probably more likely took bio 100 and 107 or 107. You don't have to have both. And then anatomy, which is your bio 221 here at VBC. Our textbook is going to be the Human Physiology book, and it's called Vander's Human Physiology. Now, the latest edition is the 15th edition, which is the edition I would prefer that you purchase. And when you purchase that through our bookstore, you're going to see that a Connect code comes with that also, and we're going to talk about Connect. It has to do with online quizzes. Now, if you purchase an earlier edition, or maybe somebody gave you that, you're going to have to purchase your Connect code separately. But again, we'll talk about this as we go along. There is no lab book for you to purchase for this class. Everything is provided for you. And then, of course, attendance. You're not attending in person. However, there is a lot of work in physiology. This is not an easy class. It does require quite a bit of your time and effort. So you just need to make sure that you're staying up on your video lectures. And what I would suggest to you is, if you're going to do this class appropriately, I would suggest that you act like this class is either a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday class, and you watch your video lectures on those days. So you kind of set up a calendar and say, okay, this would have been a Monday, Wednesday class anyway, so I'm going to watch my video lectures on Monday, Wednesday. You cannot pass this class and receive a good grade if you are not watching the video lectures. I have found several students have told me that they tried to take this class online and they never watched a single video lecture and they couldn't understand why they failed. Okay, so you just can't pass physiology without watching the lectures. Now, you do have the ability to withdraw, and you can drop this class, and there are certain days where you're able to drop the class, but after certain days you're not able to do this anymore. And so you want to make sure that you're looking on WebAdvisor, when is the last day to be able to drop the class or not. Now, because of COVID, there is also what's referred to as an EW, and this is an excused withdrawal. However, you can only use an excused withdrawal if something happens that has to do with COVID. So just be aware that the EWs can't be for just any type of withdrawal. All right, so as far as this class is concerned, because this is an online class, you have to have access to a computer. So if you don't have a computer home, you probably want to contact Robert Sewell or Karen Engelson at VVC to see about being able to borrow a computer from campus. And there should be computers that you should be able to borrow, okay? And then one of the really important things is that Canvas, which is what we're using for our online class, it doesn't do well with Safari as a browser. So if you're using a Mac, a lot of Mac users like to use Safari, but I'd like to tell you, you really should be using Chrome, or if you're not using Google Chrome, then at least Firefox. But Chrome seems to be the one that Canvas works the best on, so just FYI. All right, so there's also an incomplete policy in here, and you might want to read what that policy is in case an incomplete is needed. Now, just let me tell you that I'm not able to just give you an incomplete. You have to request an incomplete, okay? And you can't just have an incomplete just because, oh, well, I just don't have the ability to finish this class. There are certain requirements that the VVC Student Handbook has that you'll have to look up that allows you to get an incomplete, okay? So when we work on Canvas, I'll show you this, but of course you're going to have quizzes, exams, there's labs and discussion boards, and so you're going to be required to participate in all of these in order to be able to pass the class. Now, as far as the lecture exams are concerned, we are going to have 4 separate lecture exams in this class, and that includes the final. And just so that you know, the final is not cumulative. And so in case you don't know what the word cumulative means, it means the final exam is not going to go over everything you learned during the entire semester. What the final exam is going to cover is it's just going to cover the last few chapters of the course. Okay, so it won't be cumulative. But I want to read this next part to you because it's extremely important. We're going to have multiple choice and essay questions on the exam, and I'm going to go over with you during the video lectures exactly what is on your essay. So what I do in the video lectures is I say to you, okay, here's where your essay starts, and then we talk about the essay. Here's where your essay ends. You are responsible to write everything in between. And so your syllabus says you may not write your essay in a separate document, either prior to or during your exam, and then cut and paste the essay answer back into Canvas. The essays are to be typed directly into Canvas during the exam. If the essay is typed on a separate document first and then pasted into Canvas, you will receive a 0 for the essay question. Canvas will flag me to let me know, and this will be considered cheating. So I just want you to know, don't write your essay beforehand, don't cut and paste. When you take your exam, it's like an exam that you're taking in class. You take the exam and you type it into Canvas directly. Now, most of you are going to be going into nursing or some type of related medical field after passing this class, or very quickly after passing this class. And I think you can see how important medical personnel are to our society. I mean, all you have to do is watch the news and watch these poor doctors and nurses and how hard they are working to save people's lives during this time of a COVID pandemic. And we don't have enough doctors and nurses to begin with, and so these poor doctors and nurses are running ragged. However, it is really important for you also to realize that these people who are doctors and nurses also have passed their classes, they've passed their boards, they know what they're doing, and we're all depending on them to know what they're doing because we're depending on them for our lives. In a time of a pandemic, who knows who is going to get sick next? And now, of course, you know that there is a new strain of COVID that's out there, a couple new strains, and they're much easier to be able to catch. And so it's really important for you to realize that it is not about the fact that you get an A. It is about the fact that you learn this information and that you do not cheat to try to receive an A, because our lives are depending on you and what you know and how honest you are and the integrity that you have. And I can't stress enough how easy it is to cheat in an online class, but how important it is not to. And so I can't force you to not cheat, but I can certainly ask you, please do not cheat in this class. Even if you have to take it for another semester, do not cheat. I have children, I have grandchildren. I would like you to be out there knowing exactly what you're doing and be confident that you were able to pass this class on your own, and the knowledge is there for you to be able to help my loved ones. And so we're going to make sure that your exams are graded well too. So everything you write, I read. Everything you write, I grade. So I don't skim your essays. I will read them. And when I'm done reading them, I will send corrections back to you. We will also have some tutors for this class. And so I highly recommend that if you think that you need help with the exams, that you contact the tutors. And I'll show you where their information is when we look at the Canvas classes. Now, during the test, if at any time during the exam, because of course it's online, right? If there's some kind of glitch in Canvas, you need to email me immediately. Don't wait a couple hours. Don't email me the next day. And what I recommend is that you take pictures of your exam to be able to show me, this is what I did, and there was some kind of glitch and maybe you weren't able to finish the exam, but at least we have something to show that you were doing what you were supposed to do, okay? And that's really important. Now, we will also have quizzes and labs. We'll have some lab write-ups, and when we get into Canvas, I'll show you all of those things. And of course, everything is graded, and your grades are on a typical scale. 90% is an A, 80% is a B, and so on. Now, during the Canvas class, we will have announcements, and I will send those to you as regular updates, letting you know what's going on, if there's anything important that you need to know, any kind of upcoming projects or class concerns. And for you to get in contact with me again, it is best for you to email me through Canvas and not through the VVC email system. And it would be really important when you do email me, okay? It's really important because I get a lot of emails, okay? So I get hundreds of emails a week. So sometimes I don't know which class you're in, and sometimes you'll email me and you'll say things like, oh, this assignment wasn't working. Well, try to be as specific as possible. Tell me which assignment you're working on. Tell me which thing didn't work for you or what you need help with, because then I can email you back. Because usually if you don't, what I'm going to do is email you back and go, I don't exactly understand which assignment I'm trying to help you with. Okay, so just the more specific you can be, the better it is. And then also I'll show you on our Canvas class, we have what's called Ask the Professor forum. And so you can also, it's basically you can email me through that, except just be aware that other students can see this. So it's kind of like a discussion board. And so other people can see what your questions are. So we will also have discussion boards as well. And your discussion boards are very specific. So you want to make sure you're reading all of the directions for this discussion boards. And I want you, really important, because you're going to get counted down if you don't, I want you to make sure that you're responding to at least 2 of your fellow classmates. So you're going to answer your discussion board, and then you're going to make sure that you respond to 2 classmates. Now, here's another issue. Don't wait till the last second to do your exams or your quizzes or your discussion boards, because if Canvas glitches, I'm not going to give you the ability to do this again. Because here's the thing, I'm going to take into consideration if you're answering your questions at, let's say, 11:55 p.m. and it's going to cut off at 11:59 p.m. anyway, I don't think you're going to be able to finish answering all these things in 4 minutes. And so I'm not going to give you the opportunity to answer them. So make sure you're finishing your quizzes, your discussion boards in a timely fashion so that if a glitch does occur, I'm going to be willing to say, okay, yes, I see this was an issue. Thank you for emailing me right away. I will help you with this, okay? So be aware of that. However, there are no makeups for quizzes. There's no makeups for labs. There's no makeups for discussion boards. If you have a school-approved excuse, I will allow you to make up an exam. However, I won't allow you to make up the others. So keep on top of things. There are also things, because we're online, which are referred to as netiquette. And that's just a cool word, you know, because it's on the internet. This is a way of behaving yourself appropriately as if it was a college class. So when you're posting your discussion boards, please make sure that you're posting them and responding to other students in an appropriate fashion. And I don't want to see any negativity. I want to see college-educated responses, and I want those responses to be of an appropriate level. If not, I'm going to remove the response, and I'm also going to give that student a 0 on them. So far, I am very pleased to say all of my students have been extremely good at all of their posting, and so I expect that that's going to continue without a problem. So the way that I have the classes set up is that modules will open on a particular day, and then you have a week to respond to those modules. And so again, I will show you in a few minutes how that is all set up, but you can read a little bit on here. But you'll also see it on your calendars on Canvas as well. If you do have any special needs and you require any ADA assistance, please make sure that you are contacting people at VVC in order to figure out the best help that you can get. And if you're not sure who to contact, please email me and I will help you as best as I can as well. And we've already talked about this. Don't cheat, okay? I don't have anything else to say on this. And that includes plagiarism. So be very, very careful when you're taking things from the internet, okay, that you're not plagiarizing things, okay? And you should, by now, you've taken English classes, you should know how to paraphrase, you should know how to be able to do this so that it would not be considered plagiarism. All right, and then the best thing about the syllabus of all, and aren't they cute? They're my bloodhound puppies. I love them. I'm getting a new bloodhound puppy next week. I'm very excited. Okay, so now we're going to click over and look at your Canvas class. And so I'm looking at this in what my Canvas class will say student view, okay? And so you'll see the home page, and of course this will say whichever your class is at the time. And then it gives you, hi, this is Physiology, and I'm Dr. Harvey, and you can message me here. And then over on the side here, it also gives you your to-do calendar. And so, excuse me, so all of these things are what are due on January 10th, okay? So you want to make sure that you're looking at your to-do calendar. Also on this page, and of course right now there aren't any, but on this page there will be announcements that pop up. And then those announcements will also be emailed to you. But what you're going to do is you're going to click on modules, okay? And when you click on the module, what it will do is it will take you to the page where you will see all of the different things as far as your modules are concerned. Now, I have all of these modules set up per week. Typically for your class, there are 3 modules per week, but you want to make sure that you're also looking at your calendar so that you know exactly what is due on what day. This first module is just orientation, information to help you kind of get used to the class, things to read. And you can look here. Also, there's the Ask My Professor forum. So you can send questions that we already talked about to me as far as that discussion is concerned. There's also something called the Student Oasis, and that is you can send out discussions to your fellow students. I don't look at Student Oasis, so if you want to ask me a question, I won't be getting on there, so I don't really know what's being posted. But if you want to ask fellow students questions, you can post things on there. Also, there's a frequently asked questions section, so if you're wondering about things, you might be able to find information on there. Also, your textbook, that information is there. Now, one of the things I want you to see when you click on textbook, there is a free anatomy physiology textbook. However, that is not the textbook for this class. So if you want the textbook for this class, just be aware this is a different one. If you can't afford to buy the textbook, you can download or click on this. You don't have to actually download it, but you can click on this, and this is what I would say is a close enough textbook for you to be able to use. All right. And then also on here is our syllabus, and you can download this syllabus or you can just pull it up and read it right here on Canvas, however you want to do this. Okay, so once you look at all of this, now there's no assignments in this introductory module, just so that you know. But once you look at that, there is a module here. This is Learning Module 0. You have to finish Learning Module 0 before you can go on to week 1, okay? So make sure you're doing this. These are really easy assignments, just so that I know that you understand how to post a discussion, how to post an email, how to upload a picture, and then it also helps you too to make sure everything is working okay with your Canvas class. Now, if something is not working okay, one of the things, you can contact me obviously, and that's okay, but I may also be having to send you to the help desk in order for them to help you with the Canvas class. So just be aware of that. And then we're going to move for this first week into Module 1. And then you have your PowerPoints. And so if you click on these, you can download this PowerPoint, or again, just like with your syllabus, it'll eventually upload and you'll be able to just see the PowerPoint within Canvas. It's totally up to you what you prefer to do. What I would do is I would download the PowerPoint, and this is the one we're going to go over today, and then I would use that PowerPoint to write on or to type on in order to be able to see the video. Now, then you're going to click over to the video, and then you can just click on this and watch the video right there within Canvas. It's also on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel if you want to subscribe to that channel, but it's completely up to you. It doesn't really matter to me. And then the next thing is going to be a quiz. And so you can see right now, because I'm making this video ahead of time, this quiz for this class is locked until tomorrow. But as soon as that tomorrow comes, or 12 a.m. tonight, then you'll be able to take this quiz. This is going to be a lab, okay? And so there's some information for you to click on this lab, and this is help in understanding, this is a little video to understand what's called Labster. Now, if you've been taking online biology classes, you're probably familiar with Labster and probably also already have some ideas, but this is just some download information for you to be able to do the lab simulations. When you go to the next one for the lab simulation, you'll see homeostatic control. This is going to be your first lab. And then you read through here and learn about homeostatic control. And then you're going to load in this window. Now, again, it takes quite a while typically to load these labs. So one of the things I would recommend is get the lab loaded right away. And now notice they recommend using Firefox. So I'm on Chrome, but please use the browser that is recommended. So for Canvas, it's much more recommended to use Chrome. For Labster, it's more recommended to use Firefox. So what you might want to do is open it up in Firefox and then upload this, and then you'll be able to go back and take a quiz or whatever it may be. So this is loading up, so we'll come back to it later. And then you'll be able to continue to click through, and in your first thing there is a short video on plagiarism. If you're not exactly sure what plagiarism is all about, you can watch that. And then you're going to click over, and this is your first discussion board. It has to do on the mitochondria. It is due on January the 10th. Okay, so one of the things it says is post a unique response to the question directed at your fellow students no later than 2 days after the discussion opens. So discussions will open on a Sunday, so that means you need to post your response by Tuesday. That gives not only yourself but other students time between Wednesday and Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. to be able to post to 2 other students. And so you can see guidelines for composing your responses. Make sure that you read through there, guidelines for your reply to your fellow students, and then this week's post. It's watch this video post and explain how this method of eating might affect ATP production. Would production go up or down? How does eating with this method suggest in the video cause ATP production to change? I want to know how nutrition affects your mitochondria and changes your ATP production. And so then you're going to click on this video, which is found on YouTube, and you're going to watch this video and then answer the discussion post. Now, keep in mind, and I'm going to go back to the module, keep in mind there are 3 modules typically per week. So you want to make sure you go through and see, okay, here's week 1, homeostasis, and then do everything in this week. Here's also week 1. You're supposed to complete these. Same thing, week 1, and complete this 3rd module. Because now, depends on which class you're in. If you're in a winter session or you're in a spring-fall session, the number of modules may change. There are going to be more modules per week if you're in winter or summer than there are going to be for fall and spring. So make sure you're looking at the week. So week 1, week 2, and so on to see which modules are required during each of those weeks, okay? So let's see if this one is loaded up. Almost. All right, so once this loads, you'll be able to go through the homeostasis lab. Now, there are a couple labs like this gummy bear lab that do require you to do a few things outside of the video. So also make sure, because you're writing things up. So if you're doing a Labster lab, this is completely online. If you're doing a different lab, you may have a write-up. Okay?
Here you will learn how your body regulates many physiological variables to maintain a healthy equilibrium following external stimuli.
So you can see there's some kind of robotic voice that walks you through, and then you're going to read the information and just continue. And there are going to be questions throughout that you are asked. So this is automatically graded. So yes, please walk me through this whole thing, and then you're going to be able to answer the questions as you go through the process, and then your points will go directly into your grade book. And again, if you have any questions with these labs, please make sure you contact me. However, you also can contact Labster, and it is just Labster, labster.com. And you can call or contact, email, whatever, their customer service, and they're very quick to help you. Now, of course, if it's a Saturday night or whatever, they may not get back to you right away. So again, you might not want to wait to do your labs too, much on the weekend. Okay, so then you will also see as you scroll through here, eventually you will get to an exam. And so your exams are scheduled for a particular day. You'll be able to see those exams on your calendar as well. So be aware when your exams are. Now, you also have grades, and you can look at these grades, and it tells you what score you get for each of the various different things that you do. There are also the Connect quizzes, and all you're going to do is in your modules, you'll come up to those Connect quizzes, and just like any other quiz, you're just going to click on that Connect quiz within your module, and you'll be able to take that quiz directly. Now, the first time you take the quiz, it is going to ask you for your Connect number. And so you're going to have that Connect code. So you'll see in your syllabus, if you don't have your Connect code by buying your textbook through the VVC bookstore, in your syllabus it will show you where you can purchase the Connect code at, and that code will allow you then to put in your number to be able to take your Connect quizzes. Now, if you opt not to buy the Connect code, then just be aware that those Connect quizzes count for about 10% of your grade. So if you don't take those quizzes, you're automatically going to fall 10% on your grade. Okay? So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. All right, so enough of all of the syllabus and all that kind of good stuff. Let's talk some physiology. And physiology basically is the study of the function of plants and animals in their normal state. So you've taken anatomy already, and what you studied in anatomy was all about form. Physiology is all about function. How do things work? How does the human body work? And that's what we are going to discuss in this class, because this is all about human physiology. Now, you can see the picture below. This is how we're going to go through the physiology class. So physiology really is a lot about chemistry. Now, don't groan. I know how most of you feel about chemistry, and I get it. Usually if you have a biology, physiology brain, you don't really have a chemistry brain. Some of you will be lucky to have a brain that really clicks with both, but most of us, including myself, aren't really chemistry brains, okay? I do have a degree in chemistry, but it's not my most fun subject. But to understand physiology correctly, we do have to review some chemistry, and so we're going to really start with that. And we're going to go over atoms, and again, this is going to be a quick review for you just to kind of refresh your memory. We'll talk about molecules, and then we'll move into the cell. Now, the cell is all about chemistry, so we're going to use some of that chemistry to describe what's going on with the cell, and then to talk a little bit about tissues, and then we're really going to jump into the organs, and we're going to talk about organ systems and how all of those systems work together to make a functioning human being, because of course that's what this is all about, and that is what is very important. Now, we're going to try to make this class interesting, and so we're going to talk about what we call teleology, and we're also going to talk about mechanisms. So teleologically speaking, it's all about why do things exist? Why do things happen? And mechanistically speaking, it's all about what's the purpose of this? How does it actually work? How does it function? What are the processes involved? So we're going to try to talk a little bit about both. It does make it a bit more interesting that way. And so for instance, okay, so we're going to talk about how do you breathe? But then, why do you breathe? Why do you even need to breathe? And you think, oh, well, that, of course, is just easy. But really, is it? Because, for instance, I have a very good friend who works for NASA. And one of the things that he's been working on for a number of years is to try to figure out a process whereby humans don't have to breathe. And wouldn't that be important to not have to breathe, or maybe not even have to breathe so much if you're living on Mars? Or let's just bring it back down to Earth. What if you have somebody who, let's say, has a heart attack at home and they stop breathing? Is there something you could do to keep that person alive while they're not breathing, not have to really worry so much about CPR, and can I get them breathing again before you actually get them into the emergency room? And the answer is my friend has actually developed an artificial blood. And this artificial blood has some chemicals in it that allows you to put a lot of oxygen into this blood so that while the person is not breathing, they don't actually have to breathe. So if I can infuse them with this artificial blood while I transport them from their home to the hospital, I can keep them alive with this oxygen from the blood, and they don't even have to breathe. So we're going to talk about all of that as we go along. And of course, how does our blood flow? How do red blood cells transport oxygen? And are all of these actually that important anymore with all the new chemistry that's coming out? So why does your blood flow? Why do you have to have this oxygen? What's going on with all of this? We're going to try to talk about all these different things through the various different organ systems to try to make all of this interesting and, of course, make sense to us. But I want you to know that one of the major concepts in biology, physiology, doesn't matter what it is homeostasis. Now, homeostasis is all about the balance of the body. So you want to make sure your body is able to stay in balance, to stay consistent, and to not go too far out of balance. Now, of course, every day, all day, our body goes out of balance. So for instance, I'm sitting here right now talking to you, and I have a particular blood pressure as I'm talking to you sitting down. But if I were to stand up or if I were to lay down, my blood pressure changes. And that blood pressure change is taking me out of homeostasis. But is that necessarily a bad thing? And the answer to that is no, because you can go out of homeostasis for a short period of time, and our body has multiple different mechanisms that help bring us back into that homeostasis. And for instance, one of your essays, which is going to be in exam 3, is to explain the process of how we maintain that blood pressure when outside forces are trying to take us out of homeostasis. So for instance, I'm going to give you a scenario where a person is bleeding internally and their blood pressure is falling because of that. What's that person's body doing trying to keep the blood pressure at a normal level? Because if the blood pressure falls too much, we're not going to survive. We're going to die from this. So we're going to talk about homeostasis a lot in this class, and we're going to discuss how homeostasis affects the various different systems of our body. Now, one of the ways that our body regulates homeostasis is through a process called negative feedback. Now, don't get too freaked out. We're going to talk about negative feedback. It's a pretty intense concept, and I don't necessarily expect you to get negative feedback right away. And we're going to talk about it a bunch in all of our lectures as we go through. But negative feedback is the ability of the body to survive when something changes. And that means either an internal change or it could even be a change in the environment. And so when those changes occur, like I'm standing up, I'm laying down, I'm bleeding internally, our body is going to do something to try to keep the internal environment somewhat stable. Bring it back to what it should be before that change occurred. So negative feedback is kind of similar to your thermostat at home. Okay, so today for me, it's a pretty cold day. The wind is blowing. There's snow on the mountains. And so I have set my thermostat so that the heat comes on. Okay, so right now my thermostat is set at 65 degrees. But it doesn't stay perfectly 65 degrees in my house, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. So how the thermostat works is if the temperature in the house falls below 65 degrees, let's say it falls to 64 degrees, then my thermostat is going to click on and the heat is going to start pumping. And what that'll do is that'll make the temperature go up. And when the thermostat hits 65 degrees, my heater turns off. And then because the heater is off, the temperature is going to fall. And again, let's say it falls to 64 degrees, the heater turns back on, brings the heat back up to 65 degrees. That is negative feedback. So the change in the environment, that falling to 64 degrees, signals my thermostat to bring the temperature back to 65. So with our body, let's say I have a certain hormone, and that hormone is supposed to stay at this level, whatever the heck that level is. But things happen. The hormone gets used up, whatever, and the level of that hormone starts to drop. As soon as it drops, my body goes, oh shoot, that's too low. Let's make more hormone, and we're going to pump it up to the normal level it's supposed to be at. So as soon as it gets back to that normal level, the body stops making it. And then eventually we're going to use it up, and it's going to fall down to a lower level. The body will click back on and bring the hormone level back up. You see the similarity between my heater, my thermostat, and making hormones in our body? It's really the same thing. That is the process of negative feedback. So basically in negative feedback, something goes down lower than it's supposed to be, no problem. The body does whatever it needs to do to bring it back up to the level it's supposed to be. So that's where the word negative comes from. Something's going down in the body, but the body brings it back up to the normal level. So the down part is the negative part. So let's just skip that. And this is the same thing I was just telling you with the hormones. So for instance, one of those hormones might be the thyroid hormone. So if the thyroid hormone goes down because we've used it up, the brain is responsible for telling the body, hey, look, we need to make more of this, and those levels are brought back up. We're going to go through this whole process with the hypothalamus, the anterior pituitary, and the thyroid in a future lecture when we talk about the endocrine system. So you'll see. But I just wanted to basically tell you that the thyroid hormone is an example of a hormone that's levels can go down, and then we can bring those levels back up through that negative feedback process. So you can watch this YouTube video, and it just tells you a little bit more about the thyroid hormones. Now there is another type of feedback, and this is called positive feedback. Now positive feedback is different. This is not helping with homeostasis. As a matter of fact, positive feedback helps to throw us out of homeostasis. It doesn't allow us to stay in that balance. It takes us out of balance. Now, positive feedback can be very important. It's not to say positive feedback is necessarily bad as long as it's working well. So I'll give you an example. So let's say that I accidentally cut myself and now I'm bleeding. Now, of course, no kidding, I don't want to keep bleeding forever and ever. I want that bleeding to stop. So one of the things that is floating around in our blood are these little things called platelets. And platelets are really, really sticky. And so as the blood, let's say I have a cut on my arm, right? And as the blood is coming out of my arm, platelets are flowing towards the surface. And what they're going to do is they're going to stick to the edges of that cut. And so you can see right here, for instance, in this picture, you can see these little platelets here. And this is where the cut was. And you can see the platelets are all sticking to the edge of the cut. Now, what the platelets are going to do is they're going to form something we call a platelet plug. They're going to plug up that cut. So in order for them to do that, you need a lot of platelets. You can't just have a few. You have to have a ton of platelets to come in and plug up that cut. So the platelets, once they stick to the edges of the cut, they actually secrete a chemical that attracts more platelets. And more platelets stick to the edge of the cut. And then those secrete a chemical that attract more platelets. And they stick and they secrete a chemical that attracts more platelets. And more platelets stick. And they secrete a chemical that attracts more platelets. And more platelets stick and they secrete a chemical that attracts more platelets. And you get the idea. You get a ton of platelets sticking and forming this plug, mushy mess all over where the crack or the cut is, and it is plugging it all up so I don't continue to bleed until eventually my body can heal whatever that cut is. So the fact that some platelets came in and stuck, and then they secreted a chemical that attracted more platelets, and then those platelets secreted a chemical that attracted more platelets, and those chemicals were secreted that attracted more platelets and more platelets and more platelets, and you get the idea. That's why we call it a positive feedback, because A stimulated B, B stimulated A again, and that stimulated B, which stimulated A again, and it just keeps going up and up and up. Now, the only thing is, once you get so many platelets sticking, you need it to stop. There has to be what I like to call a shut-off switch, or you have an issue. I mean, imagine this for a second. What happens if platelets just keep sticking and sticking and sticking and sticking, and they never stop sticking? I have sticky platelets all throughout my body. I start getting clots everywhere, and this is not good. This is what we call pathological. It's not a good thing. I'm sick now. So anytime I have a positive feedback, something is going up and up and up and up and up and up in my body, but I have to have a shut-off switch. Whereas with negative feedback, something goes down, but I have to bring it back up to normal. Hopefully, you get that information and that kind of sort of makes sense to you. But again, remember, we're going to talk about both negative and positive feedback a lot in this class as we go along. And then there's a little YouTube video that you can also watch that helps to explain positive feedback a little bit better. This last slide has to do a little bit more with your essay questions. And so I wanted to talk to you just a little bit, and again, I'm going to talk to you a whole bunch more as far as your essays are concerned as we go along. But when I give you your essay questions, and I'm lecturing on them, I will very typically do these in a format that's called a concept map. And a lot of times also it can be referred to as like a flow chart. So I'll write a point up and then I'll put an arrow and another point and an arrow. It just makes it easier when I'm lecturing to you. However, that does not mean you can do that for your essays. It is an essay question, so it has to be written out in essay format. It can't be written out in a flowchart or a concept map format. It has to be, and not bullet points either. So sentences with periods, and make sure that it's written out. And I'm not going to count you down, but it really would be preferable if you wrote it out also with paragraphs as well, because it just makes it easier for me to read. But I just want to make sure that you realize you are not to be writing your essay questions the way I write them on the board. I write them more in shorthand. Your job is to write it out in longhand, to fill it fully out, to answer the question fully. It is as if you are answering the question as if you're the teacher now, and you're teaching someone else this concept who doesn't understand it. And I know we haven't really talked about essays yet, and it'll be a couple videos before you see those essays, but it's okay. I just wanted to kind of make this clear to you right now, okay? All right, so that is the end of your first video.